Hack the Entrepreneur is part of Rainmaker FM, the digital business podcast network. Find more great shows and education at rainmaker.fm. Hack the Entrepreneur is supported by Citi Cards with Android Pay. Listening on your phone? Now you can pay while you listen using the same device. Just tap and go. Download the Android Pay app on Google Play or visit citi.com/androidpay to get started. Android Pay is available for eligible Citi consumer credit and debit cards.
Welcome to Hack the Entrepreneur, the show which reveals the fears, habits, and inner battles behind big-name entrepreneurs and those on their way to joining them. Now here is your host, John Naster.
Hey, this is Hack the Entrepreneur. Thank you so much for joining me again today. I'm your host, John Naster, but you can call me Johnny. My guest today founded and built a drop-shipping Amazon business to over $7 million in sales with 60 full-time employees. He gained an amazing amount of experience hiring and managing online workers from all over the world. Then, having realized that so many other businesses struggled with this exact thing, he decided to capitalize on it. Today, he's the founder and CEO of FreeUp, an online agency that specializes in placing online workers into e-commerce businesses. In just 7 months, they've grown extremely fast and have landed over 150 clients. Now, let's hack Nathan Hirsch. Hack the Entrepreneur is sponsored by Citi Cards with Android Pay. How cool is it that we live in a world where you can use the same device to listen to Hack the Entrepreneur and buy your morning coffee, groceries, and more? And did I mention that it's a super fast way to pay? Just use your Citi Card with Android Pay at the register. Get in, get it, get going. Download the Android Pay app on Google Play or visit citi.com/androidpay to get started. Android Pay is available for eligible Citi consumer credit and debit cards. We are back with another episode of Hack the Entrepreneur, and today we have a very special guest. Nathan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for joining me. I think this is going to be a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've been looking forward to it.
Cool. Let's jump into it. Nathan, as an entrepreneur, can you tell me what is the one thing that you do that you feel has been the biggest contributor to your successes so far?
I'm very good at prioritizing and getting things done. I've worked with a lot of people. I've talked with a lot of people that have all these ideas and they just want to do everything and create the big picture, but they don't know how to actually take all these ideas and all these different directions that the business can go and put it into a step-by-step process where you can build it little by little, you can get that revenue stream going, and then actually use that revenue stream to invest back in the company and prioritize more and more and more tasks.
All right. So how are you prioritizing? Like, are you prioritizing daily or weekly or monthly or all of them?
All of them. So I have a team of people. I have about 15 assistants that work for me, and we do it daily, weekly, and monthly, and quarterly even. I mean, we have long-term goals that are more like big programs we want to build or processes that we are completely redesigning. But then we also have smaller term stuff to get organized, to get everyone on our team, because we have over 100 freelancers that work for us, get everyone on the same page, and just improving step by steps along the way. And then also have those big projects where whenever there's downtime, because in business, you kind of have those spikes, ups and downs, making sure that we're doing the short term. And then whenever you have that little down, that you're working on those big projects. So in a few months or the end of the quarter, you're unleashing these big projects while still getting those small things done along the way.
Nice. And you have 15 assistants?
I do.
Wow.
Well, freeup.com is a freelancing company, right. So I use that to my advantage.
I see. That's how it works. So would you determine like the prioritizing of tasks for all of the assistants, or are there some that are kind of like project managers that can or like how much are you the bottleneck or the thing in the way for everyone?
Yeah, good question. So I've got 15 assistants, and I've got inside that is a team of like 4 or 5 people that break up between HR, accounting, my assistant for like scheduling, stuff like that, and different like recruitment or outside getting clients or networking, stuff like that. So it's kind of divided in there, and then they each have their own assistants. So I'm dealing primarily with the main assistants who are responsible for these big projects and short term. And they'll also prioritize internally because they know what they should be focusing on, the more important stuff, and they know what they can give out to smaller or to their assistants. So in every day, it's kind of prioritizing what's going on and then dividing the tasks out and then regrouping and then dividing the tasks out again.
Nice. So you just meet basically with the person in charge of the 4 or 5 people.
Correct. To me, it doesn't matter how it gets done as long as it gets done as a high level. It doesn't matter who does it, but they know whether to do it or not.
Nice. I love it. I love it. All right. So FreeUp is fairly recent endeavor for you, but I know you've been at this sort of game of entrepreneurship for a while. So let's go back if we can, Nathan, because there seems to be this time in every entrepreneur's life when they've realized sort of one of two things about themselves. That either they couldn't work for someone else anymore and they were just unemployable, or that they had this calling to make this huge difference in the world. Could you tell me what side of the fence you see yourself on, and then take us back to when you discovered this about yourself?
Sure. So I've always hated just authority in general and working for other people. I never broke the law or anything like that, but I always hated just following rules just for the sake of following rules. And that was back when I was a teenager or going into college. And I was fortunate enough to have a bunch of really good internships at the Aaron's Corporation and Firestone Corporation, the tire company. And they were all about customer care, which was great. So I got this big background in customer care, but I also realized I never wanted to work retail and I really never wanted to work for someone else. So when I was in college, I kind of had that choice of whether I could go from class to work, or kind of start a side job to pay for all my expenses. So what I did was I started buying and selling textbooks at the end of the semester. Instead of people going to the bookstore, they would sell it to me. And it ended up taking off. I would have lines out my college dorm room of people selling me their books. I would hold on to the books and then I would resell them at the beginning of next semester. And that kind of took me to Amazon.com because you can't sell books without learning about Amazon. And that's when I really fell in love with just buying online and the whole e-commerce thing. And I got into Amazon back when they were mostly books and they were getting into other categories like toys, baby furniture. And I mean, right now, if you go on Amazon for any product, you'll see 100 different sellers. Back then, it was like me and 3 other people that were really involved in it. So I went from textbooks to buying from different deals that I found online, different products, different retailers, different vendors, different manufacturers. And that kind of evolved. And I used the textbook money to reinvest into buying products and build my Amazon store, which I still run today. And I've been running that for over 7 years. We do about $4 to $8 million in sales a year. And from there, that's when as your business grows, you always get to a point where you can't do everything. When that happened relatively quickly. So that kind of led me into hiring remote workers to help me, which led me into my new company, FreeUp, helping other businesses do the same thing.
Yeah, and you've been running an Amazon store for 7 years. That's like, how drastically has it changed from then till now?
I mean, it's crazy. Back when I started, their rules for third-party sellers was pretty much don't cancel orders. That was like their motto. Pretty easy. And now it's like, all right, you have late shipment rate, you have defects, you have to respond to customers in a certain amount of time. They track everything. They have bots that are going around to manage your inventory to make sure every little detail of every product listing is the same. So as we've gone through, as we've added people, the quality control has had to get bigger and bigger. And that's actually one of the things that has made me want to create a second company, because if you're relying completely on Amazon and they keep making it harder and harder and harder, and more sellers come in every day and people are realizing they can make money on Amazon, eventually it just becomes hard to expand, or you just get to a point where it might not even be worth it anymore. So creating that alternate revenue stream in any business is a good idea, diversifying in general.
I agree. Yeah. And I mean, I hear that more so from any other industry. I hear that anybody who's in Amazon, they always are all focusing now to get out of it, like to stay in it, but also have something else, because I think you can just be sort of shut off at any point, right? I mean,
yeah, I do a lot.
Control it.
I do a lot of Amazon consulting, and one of my biggest things is Amazon suspension appeals. I'm actually writing 3 appeals this week for 3 different clients of mine. And I mean, they have this awesome business going. They've been in business for years. They wake up one morning to an email from Amazon: you violated this policy. You're shut down. Write us a plan of action if you want a chance of getting reinstated. And I mean, there goes their entire business if they don't have an alternate revenue stream.
Yeah, that's serious. I mean, that's building on anyone else's platform. That's what can happen. And I've heard people who are like doing $100,000 a month, even, you think, well, they would never shut me down. It's like, Amazon doesn't care.
Yeah,
they do so much volume. They don't care about you.
That's funny. That's what a client said to me today. He's like, why did they shut me down? Like, I do so much money. And I was like, do you really though?
Look at Amazon's revenue and tell me that it even matters. All right. So You've now diversified. Prioritizing getting things done is your one thing, which you've obviously now put into like a business, which is helping other people even be able to do that. So that is your one thing. Now, every expert in business, Nathan, talks 80-20 rule. Do 20% of the work, get 80% of the results, do what you're good at, delegate the rest. Nathan, can you tell me something that you're absolutely not good at in your business?
Yeah. Anything with software or programming or anything like that, I leave that to the experts and I try to keep myself out of it. I have a really awesome time clock program that we use for free up. I didn't really build any of it. I kind of brainstorm the ideas, but even when you get into the ideas, you don't really know how those ideas work together. And even more important than that, you don't know that if you're going to build something that just becomes outdated or something that down the line just doesn't mesh together well with other things that you're building. So I not only need to get developers involved, but I want people on my team who have dealt with developers because they know the ins and outs, they know what's realistic, they know what can be prioritized, and they know what things you can put in place so that it doesn't hurt you down the line and doesn't just cost you more money because you have to redo everything.
Yeah. And so building your own time, I'm assuming that's so that people can track how often their assistants are working.
Exactly. On the client side, it's pretty cool. You have a list of all your workers, their rates. You can see when they punch in and out. It does the math for how much they're spending each day, each week, matches up with their invoices. On the worker side, you punch in, punch out like normal, leave notes for your client. And then our referral program is built in there as well. So you can see how many clients you referred and how much money you're making on referrals.
So lots of those programs already exist. What makes you decide to build it in-house rather than just to sort of lease it or like pay monthly on a service?
Great question. So back when I was running my Amazon business, I tried to use a company channel advisor to manage our inventory because we were drop shipping. We had all these inventory feeds from different manufacturers. And I quickly learned that it's much better to have if you can afford it, it's much better to have a customized program for your business because there is no business out there that's like my company FreeUp, just like any other business using a time clock software. The chances are it doesn't 100% match up with your business. It might be at 95%, which is pretty good, but I want something that I can build over time and I can add custom features like our referral program that we launched. And our client sign up is a little different than other places. So for me personally, it's better to customize it. It also adds value to your company if you have something that's proprietary. And I'm lucky enough to have a developer that's a lead developer at Universal Studios to help me build it. So that's kind of my mentality on it. I do buy programs monthly, like I'll use Xero and accounting software, stuff like that. But I pick and choose when to use customized solutions that increase the value of my company.
Nice. I mean, seems like a well thought out approach to it. And especially when you said like the proprietary value and enhancing the value of your service to your customers. That's smart.
Thank you.
So let's move to projects. So projects is a very loose term, but which I'm guessing you're not looking to start a new project as in like a new business at this point, but a project within either e-commerce or FreeUp at this point. You obviously have team working with you. You have lots of people that you're hiring out through FreeUp. So you have a lot on your plate, but how do you decide right now? And I want to know whether it's like a written process you have, Nathan, or just an internal process. But when an idea either comes through your head or through your inbox or from somebody on your team as something you should do, how do you determine that that project is worth your and your team's time, energy, and resources?
Good question. So I write it out in terms of emailing myself. That's kind of the way that I go about it. Whenever someone has an idea that I like, that I think could add value to the company in some way, whether it's right now or down the line, I'll email it to myself and then we go over it during our Monday morning meeting and prioritize. To me, I look whether it solves like an immediate problem or what kind of immediate impact it has. And the immediate impact could be saving you money. It could be increasing sales. It could be cutting payroll, which is kind of a variation of saving money, but lowering the time that it takes to do something. Or if it's more of just like a value builder overall, if it just makes us look better in some way, but might not necessarily have a monetary value. And then you prioritize it there. Obviously, if someone comes up with an idea that could cut our payroll in half overnight, that becomes a much higher priority than someone having an idea for our logo to change a color. So it really depends on what kind of impact it is. The other thing that's a big factor is how long it's going to take. If it's a 2-month project, I have to look at what other big projects I have going on and where it falls in line with that. So that's kind of my mentality on there. There's a lot of things that come up that are pretty quick to implement, other things down the line, and then other ideas that you might not even realize what other effects it has on the company. So you might want to do more research before just jumping right into the project.
Right. And so you email yourself and then it comes up on Monday, but it doesn't fit into your prioritization, say, for the next 3 months, would you say keep emailing that to yourself? Like, are you worried about losing that idea of that project, or do you think that if it's of value, it will come back to you?
Good question. So once it's emailed to myself, I make a list. I talk to my team at the Monday morning meeting, and then I if we approve the project and we want to move forward, I assign it to one of my project managers, and it's kind of goes on their long-term to-do list. All my assistants are trained to have a short-term list and a long-term list. So let's say it's an accounting idea and it's a big project. I would say, hey, Marius, my bookkeeper and project manager, like write this down. Once you get caught up, let's revisit it and let's get started. Or, hey, this falls between this project and this project. So once we're done with project A, we'll consider this project B and we'll get going. So I have over 250 clients. I have over 100 workers. I have 15 assistants. It's very tough for me to keep track of all these ideas that are going around. So I make sure that they're the ones that are responsible for bringing it up and making sure that it gets started.
Right. So 250 clients, 150 workers, and 15 on your team. That's a lot of people. So you decide to implement an accounting project. You send your team into action. Then the feedback comes after, say, a month or two, whatever, depending on the project, that it was completely the wrong move to make, which happens. But can you sort of walk us through, Nathan, like how to decide on something, send team and effort into a direction as the CEO, and then find out that you were completely wrong?
Sure. So the first thing I do to try to avoid that, which I've been fortunate enough to not have too many projects that were just totally haywire and not worth my time, is if I have, even if I have an accounting idea, I bring it up to my entire team, and I'll even open it up to the 100 workers that work for me and be like, hey, anyone have thoughts, concerns, questions? Like, before we implement this huge thing, like, let's hear them. And then we'll gather it and we'll talk about it and we'll figure out how much time it's going to take, what research has to go in beforehand, if there's any kind of simulations we can run. And then we kind of look at worst case and best case scenario for the outcome. So if we build it perfectly, like what's the best thing that could happen? How much money could it save? What it could look like for clients? And let's say worst case, the same thing. So then you kind of figure out if it's worth it. I mean, if you're getting through a project, to me, communication's everything. Whenever you're dealing with remote workers, that's kind of what I try to separate free up from the rest of the agency out there, is how good our communication is. And it goes internally as well. I don't want to hear 2 months later, hey, we messed up, this project doesn't work. If you work on it for 2 hours and a concern pops up, I want to hear about it, because I'd much rather pull the plug there. Or you never know, you might start in one direction and it might lead you into a great idea to go in a complete other direction. So it's very rare that I get to the end of the project and we're like, all right, we failed. I would usually figure it out some way along the way. And maybe you just lower it as a priority until you do more research and work on something else, or you tweak the direction in which it's going.
I love it. I love it. And so communication is key. Is that, like, culturally then something that you sort of instill in everyone within your company?
We have 13 pages of communication guidelines that I made myself and spent a lot of time on. And in order for anyone to join Free Up, they have to memorize it and get tested on it.
Wow. I like it.
I take communication very seriously, and I don't really put up with miscommunication, even if it's something where it's a client worker miscommunication. To me, and it's not one of those things that clients always write. It's more like, I've pre-trained you to communicate well. So there really is no excuse for miscommunication.
Nice. Is everything else or most in your business like a written out process?
Yeah, we try to write out everything, with the one exception of processes that are not completely filled out, because whenever you're in a startup, things get outdated so quickly. And I don't want to have me or my team spend every week just updating the same processes until they're final. So while something is in the development stage, I would more make it bullet points. And then once something is ready to actually be implemented, and I think it's going to last 6 months or a year, that's when we would actually put in writing and make it a system. But there's also a fine line, because you don't want to be one of those companies with a 300-page training manual that everyone's like, oh, yeah, I read it, but they didn't actually read it. So it's a fine line. You want to make it so you stress what's important, it's just what people read, and actually make the content available to people so they actually read it.
Right. And so when you finally nail down a process, who creates the process? And then after that, is it sort of a fixed document, or is it sort of living and breathing?
One of my projects right now is actually creating a dashboard that all my workers can access at any point, that would have all the training material. In terms of who builds it, it really depends on my schedule. My schedule tends to get a little bit crazy. So again, if it was an accounting project, I would assign it there. If it's an HR project, I would assign it there. They create the rough draft. I go through it and probably destroy it with a lot of feedback, suggestions, and changes. send it back. That might happen. Who knows? 2 to 10 times until we get the final one. And then I have a professional writer that once it's finalized can put it into a more friendly tone, a more professional tone to get it before we actually send it out to everyone.
I love it, man. I love it. Brilliant.
Thank you.
All right, Nathan, it's been a lot of fun. I want to wrap up on one final question for you.
Sure.
You've been at this game for almost a decade now, man. It's awesome. It's cool. And I'm sure there's a lot of places you want to go and a lot of goals you still want to fulfill. And I totally get that. But this is the idea I'm calling the entrepreneurial gap, meaning that as entrepreneurs, as dreamers, we sometimes live in this gap where from the outside, Nathan, you look completely successful. But I know to you, you have a goal in 1 month when you hit this revenue goal, in 3 months when you do this, in 6 months when you hit that 300th employee. That's when you'll see yourself as successful. Yet we both know that right before you hit that goal, you're going to set bigger, loftier ones into the future. And like walking towards the horizon, the further you walk, the further it always gets. And we sometimes live in this gap where we never see ourselves as successful no matter what we accomplish. So right now, Nathan, if you could stop and turn around and look behind you, the wins, the losses, the highs, and the lows, but tell me how you feel about your entrepreneurial sort of journey up until today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really a complainer. It's hard for me to complain. I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of success at a really young age. One thing that I've kind of kept in mind in this mentality, and I think it's because I've just worked with a lot of people, is I've always been good at making money. And I knew one way or another, I wasn't going to end up on the street. I was going to figure it out, whether it was a career or entrepreneurship. So money isn't necessarily the thing that drives me. What I'm really passionate about, and I think my business partners would agree, is employing people. There are a lot of people out there with really good talents that work incredibly hard that might be missing that one skill that it takes to get them over the top, whether it's the ability to sell themselves to clients or create a good resume, stuff like that. And the fact that we've been able to employ so many people that a lot of people depend on me and my company, my business partners for their paycheck, and that we're continuing to add people and provide for their families. To me, that's the most successful and most rewarding thing. And I try to give back to them as much as I possibly can and treat them well and make it a fun place to work. So to me, it's all about the people you work with and treating them properly. And any entrepreneur, like if you're just going out to make money for yourself, being rich by yourself isn't a lot of fun. You want to make sure the people around you have just as much success going forward.
I love it, man. I love it. All right, we've got to talk about your business in passing, but let's take some time now to just explain FreeUp, what it is and how it can benefit the listener.
Sure. So I do lots of podcasts and webinars, and I've written an ebook on hiring workers. So I consider myself a hiring expert. And what I want to do is create a better way to hire workers. So right now you can go on all these different websites, Upwork, freelancer.com, even if you're looking for US, Indeed.com, whatever it is, you can post a job, get 100 applicants, interview them one by one. And at the end of the day, you're either going to make a good hire or a bad hire. If you make a bad hire, it can hurt your company. If you make a good hire and one day that person decides to quit, you're right back where you started. And a lot of my clients have had these bad experiences hiring workers, or they just don't have the time for it. So with FreeUp, we get hundreds of applicants every week. We have a great interview process that I designed myself. We've got our communication guidelines, which we already talked about. And then once people are in our network, we make them available to our clients. So if you become a client of ours, you can be like, hey, Nathan, I need a customer care person. I need an Amazon expert, whatever it is. And we offer both US and non-US workers from $5 an hour to $50 an hour to help you with anything you need. And then on the back end, once you've hired our workers, we're there to help you along the way, whether it's consulting, whether it's getting involved if there's any miscommunication and keeping you moving forward. And on the very back end, we're insurance for your workers. Our workers rarely quit. It is real life. It happens. There's nothing I can do about it. But if your worker quits for any reason, we cover all retraining costs. We get you a new worker with the same skill set right away. And we make sure that you never take a step backwards for HR reasons. So that's kind of what you get with FreeUp and how we separate ourselves. I mean, anyone that wants to sign up at freeup.com, make sure you include 3 E's. If you mention John's name, you get 10% off your first worker.
Nice. I love it. I love it. So that's FreeUp, FREEE up.com. And Nathan, you are on Twitter somewhat?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Feel free to join me. You can email me at nathan@freeup.com. You can add the Skype, freeup.com. I'm pretty easy to contact. I'm a workaholic, as I'm sure you are, John.
I love it. So freeup.com, Nathan at FreeUp, as well as his social media and anything else we mentioned today in the episode will be at hacktheentrepreneur.com for you to track down when you're done working or writing or blog, whatever you're doing right now.
One last thing, if you don't mind.
Pardon?
One last thing, if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we have a great referral program, even if maybe your business is not ready for VAs, but you know other people in the industry. Any clients you refer to us, you get 50 cents for every hour that you bill to them forever. It's all kept track of in our time clock software. You can view how many clients you've referred and how much you're making each week. If you get invoices from us, we take it right off the invoice. If you're not a client of ours, that's fine too. We pay it out every 2 weeks. So just by spreading the name of Free Up, we have lots of people that just get a paycheck every week for just referring clients.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a killer affiliate program.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Getting paid per hour. I love that. So I'll link to that page as well. I'm looking at it right now for you to check out as well. And so hit Nathan up if you have any questions. Let him know you heard him on the show, and use Free Up when you need to hire your next worker. Nathan, once again, man, thanks so much for sharing. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for taking the time. And please just keep doing what you're doing, man, because it is awesome and inspiring to watch.
Awesome. Let's stay in touch.
All right, man.
Thanks, John.
Nathan, thank you so much. That was a fun conversation. I hope you out there enjoyed that as much as I did. And Nathan he's a go-getter. He's going for it. I love it. And something I've struggled with in the past is management of employees as a team grows, and it's really hard. And I love that Nathan has kind of nailed this and also realized that there are a lot of people like me who don't like or aren't good at that aspect of a business, and so he's created Free Up around it. Brilliant. Find an opportunity, capitalize on it. Entrepreneurship in a nutshell. I love it. So this conversation went some cool places. I really, really enjoyed being part of it and then going back through it, which is what I just did. I went back through it and I listened again to just kind of read and sort of take in, redigest. Is it redigest? Digest it from a different perspective. What Nathan said and what some of his thoughts were on projects, were on sort of work, and sort of what his strengths and his weaknesses are. So that's what I did. I went back, and then I went back again, and then I went back one more time. That last time I went through, there was something I had missed. I'm not sure how I missed it, but I had missed it. But that last time through, it was it. There it was, just sitting there so clearly, that one thing. Did you get it? Did you hear it? Let's do it. Let's find the hack.
We have 13 pages of communication guidelines that I made myself and spent a lot of time on. And in order for anyone to join Free Up, they have to memorize it and get tested on it.
And that's the hack. Nathan. I love this. I love this for a couple of reasons. I love that you have a guideline written on communication because you take communication so serious. And I love that this is like a culture sort of fit for your company. Read this 13 pages. You're going to get quizzed on it. If you don't understand it, it means you didn't read it or you don't care and you're not a right fit for my company. This is how Nathan now has like 100 workers that work for him because of doing this. I've been looking inside some other people's businesses and the processes that are written out, the culture sort of the company, like this documentation of 13 pages strictly on communication. These things are really, really invaluable for the culture, for the growth, and for sort of the cohesiveness of your company and sort of everyone being able to stay on the same path and roadmap of what you see as the vision for the company as the entrepreneur. But also, it really affects sort of the growth because it's really showing the personality to me of the entrepreneur themselves, right? You're creating something out of nothing. That's what entrepreneurship is. I don't care if that's a service. I don't care if that's a widget. Doesn't matter. You've come up with this idea and you're executing on it. And from that needs to come your personality. And if you believe fully in communication as a valuable like aspect or tool of relationships and of just being able to work together, then definitely write your own 10-page or 20-page or 13-page process for this of what you want people to, how you want them to think, how you want them to sort of deal with everyone that they're working with, whether it's clients or whether it's management or whether it's coworkers. Don't assume that people will read your mind. Don't assume that people will see your vision. Nobody else sees your vision the way you do until you either explain it personally, if you're working in the same office, or if you're remote, through documentation and through meetings and through video courses. This whole thing of, oh, meetings are garbage, it's nonsense. It's absolutely essential, especially when we're working with remote workers. It's so essential. Maybe you don't need a communication document yourself, but maybe you need one on whatever processes it is in your business. Maybe it's a hiring process. Maybe it's a process for actually like being able to review people, how they're working and their performance, and then giving raises. Maybe it's just how that one aspect of the job is done, the service or that widget is created. Create these documents and put personality into them. It's you, it's your business, it's your vision, it's your idea. Nathan, thank you so much. All right, that was fun. I just want to say thank you so much again for stopping by. It's great. It's great to be back. This is just now the second week back full time, and it's really cool. I'm really happy that we're here together, spending this time. HackTheEntrepreneur.com is the website. Make sure to check out Nathan's show notes, and I'll link up to FreeUp, to Upwork he talked about, to freelance.com we mentioned, and then to him on social media. You can reach out to him and tell him you heard him on the show. Follow up with any questions you have for him. I'm sure he would love to help you. So yeah, it's been fun. Thank you so very much again. And please, until next time, keep hacking the entrepreneur.